Take a breath and just let yourself arrive here, fully, completely, in this moment. You don't have to carry the weight of everything that happened before this, and you don't have to reach ahead toward everything that still feels unresolved. Just be here, right now, in this space, because something brought you to this moment. Something stirred inside of you, a quiet nudge, a longing, a sense that there has to be more than the busyness, more than the striving, more than the constant noise of a life that feels like it's moving fast but going nowhere deep. And that stirring, that's not random. That's an invitation to return to what your soul has always known, that when you put God first in all things, everything else begins to find its place. So today, we're going to sit with that truth together, not as a rule to follow, not as a standard to measure yourself against, but as a living reality, a way of moving through the world that changes everything about how you see, how you choose, how you live. The weight of trying to figure it out alone. Can I ask you something, honestly? How long have you been trying to figure it out on your own? How long have you been making the plans, working the strategy, rearranging the pieces, hoping that if you just think hard enough or work long enough, the life you're imagining will finally come together? And maybe some of it has worked. Maybe you've accomplished things, built things, survived things that should have broken you. And that matters. That counts. But here in the quiet, honestly, does it feel like enough? Does it feel like it's flowing? Or does it feel like you're fighting for every inch? There is a way of living that is heavy. It's the way of the person who puts everything else first, their agenda first, their reputation first, their fears first, their plans first, and then somewhere at the end of the list, if there's time, if there's energy, God gets a slot. And I want to say this gently, because I know that's not malicious. Most of the time, it's not even conscious. We drift into that pattern without even realizing it, because the world moves fast and demands come loudly, and God is often quiet. But something begins to happen in a life that is structured that way. There's a low-grade exhaustion that never fully lifts. There's a sense of pushing and straining, like you're carrying something that was never meant to be yours alone. There's a restlessness, even in moments of success, that whispers, "This isn't quite it." That restlessness is not a flaw in you. It's a signal. It's your soul telling you the order is off. It's your spirit recognizing that something foundational is out of place. And until it's realigned, everything built on top of it will feel shaky. What it means to put God first. So, what does it actually mean to put God first in all things? In Nebenti, I want us to go beyond the surface answer, because for a lot of us, the surface answer sounds like morning devotions, or saying a prayer before meals, or making it to church on Sunday, and those things have their place. But putting God first is something far deeper and far more revolutionary than a checklist of religious habits. Putting God first means that before you decide, you listen. Before you move, you ask. Before you plan, you present what you're hoping for and hold it open, willing to receive a different answer than the one you already decided you wanted. It means that your identity is anchored in who God says you are, not in your performance, not in what you've produced, not in what others think of you when they see your life from the outside. It means you don't need the validation of the world to feel secure, because you're drawing from a source that doesn't run dry. It means that when you face a decision, the first question is not what makes the most sense financially, or what do most people do in this situation, or what will make me look the most capable. The first question is, what is being asked of me here? What is the wise and faithful path? What am I being called toward? Putting God first is not about shrinking your life. It's about expanding it in the right direction. It's not about becoming passive and waiting for lightning bolts. It's about becoming deeply attentive, moving with intention rather than reaction, with clarity rather than chaos, with peace rather than pressure. And here's what I've seen to be true. The person who genuinely puts God first doesn't end up with a smaller life. They end up with a truer one, a life that fits, a life that has weight and meaning and joy that doesn't depend on circumstances to stay afloat, the rearranging that needs to happen. But let's be honest, Getting there requires a rearranging, and rearranging is uncomfortable because things have been stacked a certain way for a long time. And when you start shifting the order, other things shift too. Some of what needs to move is external. The way you structure your time, the way you prioritize your energy, the commitments you've said yes to that maybe should have been a no. The habits you've built around comfort rather than growth. Those are real things, and shifting them takes real courage. But more than the external, it's the internal rearranging that matters most. It's the rearranging of what you trust. What are you actually leaning on when things feel uncertain? What's the thing you run to when you're afraid or overwhelmed? Is it your own understanding? Is it distraction? Is it control? Is it the approval of people whose opinions shouldn't carry that much weight? When we put God first, we are choosing to make trust the foundation rather than certainty. And that can feel terrifying to the part of us that wants to know exactly how everything is going to unfold before we take a single step. But here is the grace in it. You don't have to see the whole picture. You just have to take the next right step with the light you have, and trust that what you can't yet see is being held by someone who can see all of it, all the way to the end of your story. That's not naive. That's not wishful thinking. That's a deep and intelligent surrender, the kind that only comes when you've experienced firsthand what happens when you let go of the grip and discovered that you were caught. The areas of your life that are waiting. Let's take a slow walk through the areas of your life, and let this be a quiet moment of honest inventory, not judgment, not condemnation, just honest looking. Your work, your career, the thing you spend the majority of your waking hours doing, is God first there? Not just in whether it's a Christian workplace or whether you mention your faith to colleagues, but in how you work. Do you bring integrity when no one is watching? Do you treat the people around you with dignity even when you're under pressure? Do you hold your professional goals with an open hand, willing to redirect if that's what's called for? Or is your career the thing that defines you, the altar you lay everything else on? Your relationships, the people you love, the people who are complicated, the people you've hurt and the people who've hurt you. Is God first there? Are you leading with love even when it's costly? Are you forgiving even when it feels unjust? Are you being honest even when it's uncomfortable? Or are your relationships driven primarily by what you need from them, what they make you feel, what they reflect back to you about yourself, your finances, the way you steward what comes into your hands? Is God first there? Are you making decisions from a place of generosity and trust, or from a place of fear and scarcity? Are you accumulating for accumulation's sake, or are you thoughtful about what you have and willing to hold it loosely? Your inner life, your thoughts, your fears, your habits, your secret places. Is God first there? Are you inviting honest examination of what's growing inside you? Are you doing the work of becoming more whole, more integrated, more fully yourself? Or are there rooms in the house of your inner world that you've closed off, that you're hoping won't be looked at? I'm not asking these questions to create shame. I'm asking them because these are the places where putting God first becomes real, not in theory, but in the actual texture of our actual days. When it's hard to put God first, and I want to acknowledge something, because I think it would be dishonest not to, there are seasons when putting God first feels beautiful and natural, when you're in a place of gratitude and clarity, when life is flowing and you feel connected. In those seasons, the first place posture comes almost easily. But there are other seasons, seasons of confusion, seasons of loss, seasons where you prayed and nothing seemed to move, seasons where you tried to do the right thing and it still fell apart, seasons where following the faithful path cost you something you weren't prepared to lose. And in those seasons, putting God first is not a feeling, it's a choice. It's a deliberate act of the will that says, I don't fully understand what's happening. I don't have clarity. I'm not experiencing peace right now. But I am going to anchor myself to something that goes deeper than my current emotional state. That's not weak. That's one of the most courageous things a human being can do. To choose faithfulness when faithfulness feels like it costs more than it's giving. To choose trust when trust feels like it's asking too much. To choose first position for God when everything in you wants to take back the wheel and drive. And what I want to say to the person who is in that hard season right now, the person who is tired of doing it right and not seeing the results they expected, the person who has prayed the same prayer for so long that hope has started to feel naive, I want to say, you are not forgotten, you are not overlooked, and the faithfulness you are choosing even now, even in this, is being seen, and it is not wasted. The invitation to put God first is not a transaction. It's not a formula where you do your part and guaranteed outcomes follow. It's a relationship. And like all real relationships, it requires showing up even on the days when it doesn't feel reciprocal, trusting that the full picture is larger than the frame you're currently standing in. What begins to shift? And yet, when you commit to this way of living, when you genuinely begin to reorder your life around first things being first, something begins to shift. It usually doesn't happen all at once. It's rarely a dramatic moment. It's more often a quiet accumulation of small alignments, a decision made from clarity rather than fear, a moment of restraint where you would have once reacted, a generosity that surprises you, a peace that shows up in a situation that would have previously undone you. You start to notice that the things you were striving so hard after, the things you were white-knuckling and controlling and engineering, when you release them, some of them come and some of them don't, and both begin to feel okay, because your security is no longer tied to the outcome. You start to notice that your relationships have more room in them, because you're not pulling from people what only God was designed to give you. You're entering rooms of relationship already full rather than arriving empty and hoping to be filled. You start to notice that your work has a different quality to it, not necessarily that it gets easier, but that it has meaning that doesn't depend on whether anyone else recognizes it, because you're doing it as an act of faithful stewardship rather than as a performance for approval. You start to notice that your interior life has more quiet in it, more groundedness, a kind of settledness that wasn't there before. Not that you never feel fear, not that doubt never visits, but that they no longer have the final word, because something deeper has been established beneath the surface of your days. The daily practice. So how do we actually do this? Not as a one-time declaration, but as a daily practice. It starts at the beginning, before the day builds its momentum around you, before the notifications and the demands and the voices of everyone who needs something from you. There needs to be a moment, even a brief one, of intentional orientation, a moment where you essentially say, today is not mine alone to design. I am not the only architect of what unfolds here. I bring myself, my plans, my hopes, my fears, and I offer them, and I ask for what I need to move through this day with wisdom and integrity and love. That moment doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be elaborate. It doesn't have to look a certain way. What matters is the posture behind it, the genuine turning of your attention before the world captures it. And then throughout the day, there are invitations to check in, moments when a decision point arrives, when a difficult conversation is ahead, when you feel the pull of fear or ego or selfishness, and you have a choice in that moment, to act from your default wiring or to pause and realign. That pause, that tiny gap between stimulus and response, is where putting God first actually lives, not just in the morning, but in every moment where you remember to choose. And here's what Grace says about the moments you forget, and you will forget, regularly, because you're human, and habits are stubborn, and the noise of the world is loud. Grace says, come back. There's no penalty for returning. The door is always open, and you are always welcome, and the moment you remember, that's when the realignment can begin again. You were made for this. I want to say something to you before we close, and I want you to really let it in. You were not made for the exhaustion of a life that is constantly self-managed. You were not designed for the loneliness of shouldering everything alone. You were not wired for the anxiety that comes from making yourself the final authority on your own life. You were made for communion, for connection, for a life that flows from a source larger than yourself. You were made to be known and to know, to be guided and to move in that guidance, to be loved at the foundation and to let that love shape everything that rises from it. Putting God first is not about diminishing yourself. It's about finding the truest version of yourself, the one that exists not in isolation but in relationship, not striving but responding, not performing but being. And when you begin to live from that place, when first things are finally first, you discover something that no amount of achievement or accumulation could ever give you. You discover that you are enough, right now, as you are, not when you've figured it all out, not when you've arrived at some destination you've been chasing, but now, today, in this ordinary and extraordinary moment of your life, you are already held by something that does not waver. And that changes everything. As we close this time together, I want to invite you into a moment of stillness. Let your breath slow, let your shoulders drop, let the weight of everything you've been carrying have somewhere to go. And in the quiet, make a simple, honest choice. Not a performance, not a resolution that's really just pressure wearing a spiritual costume, but a genuine, humble, open-handed choice. Tell yourself, and mean it, I am willing to put God first, not perfectly, not without stumbling, not without moments of forgetting and returning, but genuinely willing to let that be the orientation of my life. And then trust that willingness is enough to begin, that it's the seed, and everything else grows from there. You don't have to have it all figured out today. You just have to take one step in the right direction, with your heart in the right posture, and then another step, and another. That's a life of putting God first, not a single grand moment, but 1,000 small chosen moments, strung together into something beautiful and true. And if this resonated with you today, if something stirred while you were listening, I want to encourage you not to let that stirring go unexamined. That's something worth exploring, worth sitting with, worth building a life around. Take care of yourself, be gentle with yourself, and keep choosing first things first. Until next time,